Hey everybody, this is Kevin and welcome back to another Estes rocket build video. Today we're taking a step back. We're going to do something a little more simple. We're going to be attacking the Estes Wizard. This is an intermediate rocket build and it's one of their mainstays. It's been in the fleet as long as I can personally remember. It's a simple BT-20 rocket with 3 fins and a nose cone. It runs on 18mm motors as small as the A motors all the way up to a C67. And this thing will soar up to over 1,600 feet. Something this small, I'm not sure you want it to go that high unless you've got eagle eyes for vision. But here is the rocket. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. We'll set everything out, do a quick inventory, and get straight to work. So let's sit back and enjoy the build of the Estes Wizard. Okay, we got all the parts laid out here on the bench. I'm going to open the manual and we're going to do a quick run through on the inventory. Now, on something like the Wizard, this is super quick. Okay, so I'm going to put this up in the top right corner and we'll go through them piece by piece. Okay, first up we've got we'll start with the main body tube. That's pretty easy to locate. We've got the main tube. We've got the engine block, which I actually should have had this opened already. Got our green engine block. We've got our shock cord. Okay, we've got our streamer. We've got our nose cone with the end cap, also known as the insert. We've got our 3 fins. I'm going to leave them in the bag for now. And we've got our launch lug. And last but not least, we've got our yellow spacer tool. Now this is a tool. It's not going to be part of the rocket, but very important that you keep hold of this and hold on to it for future uses. Lots you can do with this, including use it for further future rockets. So there you go. That wraps up the inventory. I knew that was going to be pretty quick and easy. By the way, it comes with some decals too. So we've got those. All right, so let me clear the board and we will get started with step number 1. Before we get into step number 1 on the build of the Wizard, there's a few things that I like to do personally. Now this isn't something you need to do, it's just something I find useful, so I'm going to do this ahead of time. But regarding the nose cone, I'll kind of go through these one by one. Technically the first step is to glue your end cap or insert into the nose cone. However, when I paint, let me grab my dowel here. When I paint my nose cone, I like to temporarily glue it on top of a dowel. That way I can hold it out while I spray paint it. So I'm going to hold off on gluing this in until after the nose cone is completely painted. The other thing I'm going to do is, and if you've seen this, seen my videos previously, I like to primer my body tubes and then wipe the primer off immediately with some lacquer thinner. And what that does is it leaves the primer in the spiral groove. And you do 2 or 3 applications of that process and it pretty much fills in your spiral groove completely. So then when you do finally paint the rocket, it's completely smooth with no evidence of spiraling. So I'm going to go ahead and primer this off camera and then it'll be ready for gluing fins on and launch lugs and building it as we need to. And the last thing I want to do before we begin is I'm going to sheet my balsa fins. Now there's 2 ways that I like to do this. One is keep the fins inside the template that it came in and spray primer onto it and then dry sand. Do not wet sand balsa wood. You'll make a mess of things. But then dry sand the primer off, do that 2 or 3 times and you could get a glass-like finish on the fins. And it's a lot easier to sand them when they're still flat in the template than after they're glued onto the rocket. So those are 3 things I like to do before I technically start the build of the rocket. So I'm going to take care of those 3 individual items off camera and then we'll come back and start the assembly per the instructions. Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't mention what that other option was on the fins. I know I talked about the first way of doing it. The second way of doing it is I like to take 0.010 inch thick, or shall I say thin, polystyrene plastic sheets and epoxy these onto the balsa wood. When you do that, you no longer have to sand or smooth out the fins prior to paint. You can just glue this directly on, trim it to fit, and then paint directly onto this, and you get a lot smoother finish that I found, in my opinion. So that's the second way of preparing your fins before gluing them onto the body tube. So this is the route that I'm going to take. I'm going to glue the plastic onto the fin. So when you see me glue these onto the body tube, they will be white, and now you'll know why. All right, let's get on with the construction. Okay, before we start into the construction, as per the instructions, I want to kind of get you caught up on what I've done off camera since we last talked. As you can see, obviously the body tube, I've gotten the primer filled in the spiral grooves. This was after 2 coats, and it is perfectly smooth. There's no feeling to those grooves whatsoever. And then of course follow-up primer and paint when we actually paint the rocket will just completely eliminate any possible feelings or sightings of a groove. So that's been done. The other thing I did was I did sheet the fins. You can see both sides are sheeted with the plastic, and I also sanded the leading edge and the tip edge of each fin, giving them a nice round contour. So the fins are now up to par and ready to go, but we're going to set them aside because we're not ready to glue them on just yet. We need to mark our body tube. So if you've watched any of my videos in the past, you know I don't like to cut out the templates from the instructions. I like to make photocopies. So in typical fashion I did, and we're going to wrap this tube up. I'm going to line the notch marks and take a piece of masking tape, hold those together. Gonna slide this down. And the other thing I like to do is tape the tube to the template. That way it won't shift or rotate on us. And we'll just take a pencil and we'll just make a mark. At each location for the fin line and the launch lug line. Okay. Now the instructions call for using a door jamb. However, Estes does also sell this awesome tube marking guide, which I love to use. You just simply place your tube inside of this guide and line your notch marks up and just draw your lines. And last and final one. There we have it. Okay, so that is all ready to glue our fins on. Let me clear the board and we'll get ready to glue the fins. Okay, I do want to do one step ahead of gluing the fins on. They say to glue the fins on and then insert your engine block. I'm going to put the engine block in first, and the reason being is I have a different technique of installing it that the fins may cause interference, so I just want to go ahead and get this done before we get the fins on. Now let me show you what I do. I take the yellow spacer tube, and this is from an old kit. This is the new one that came with the kit. I'm going to store this away and use it for other purposes later on. But what I did was, they call for making a mark at the 1/4 inch line, which I did do. You can see the little pencil mark right there. But then what I do is I drill 2 holes and run a toothpick through it That way, when you insert your engine block and push your spacer up, there's no chance that you could accidentally slide past the mark that you made. It will stop where it's supposed to stop. Then you can just pull it out with the toothpicks. And it's going to be perfect placement. No chance of going too far, because if it goes too far, good luck getting to it. Your only chance is maybe getting a dowel and trying to push it back out from this end, but by that point your wood glue might have dried. So it's just a little thing I like to do, and it seems to work well. So let me go ahead and get some wood glue. And I've already determined that a Q-tip, if you pinch the tip, it's right about the right length to spread the glue. So let me just get this covered in wood glue. And let me put an extra little bit for added measure. There we go. Okay, I'm going to insert my block. We'll get it started here. Okay, now I'm simply just going to push it all the way till it stops and pull it out. Camera can pick it up or not, probably too far down there to see it, but it's in the perfect place. So that's how we do that. Okay, set the glue aside. Now we need to do a little bit of measuring for our fins. We need to measure from the base of the rocket 3/8 of an inch up. So take a ruler, and we're going to make a mark at 3/8 inch on each of the fin lines that we made. Here's our launch lug line. At the launch lug line, we need to make it at 2 inches. So we'll make a line at the 2-inch mark, which is up here. And then back to the 3/8 inch for the fins. And one more. That is going to be the bottom of the fin. So there's going to be a 3/8 of an inch tube below the bottom of the fins. Okay, so we got our lines marked. I'm going to go get some sandpaper. We're going to do a little bit of scuffing up before we glue the fins. So let me do that, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're going to glue the fins on now. I did off camera take some light sandpaper and scuff up the area that the fins are going to be glued onto. Now, if you've seen my videos before, you know that I like to glue my fins not centered on the line that we make, but up against the line that we make. That way I can ensure that the fin is, if I can get the right angle here, parallel to the tube and not askew at all. When you center it, it's kind of hard to see where the line is exactly. So by putting the fin to the side of the line, you can ensure that the fin is straight. So it's worked before, we'll do it again. Okay, I'm going to take my wood glue and I'm going to just lay a small layer down the root, and we'll spread it with our finger a little bit. Okay, always have a paper towel on hand. Okay, now I like to lay the fin down in position. Roll it a little bit and then remove it. We're going to give this about a minute to tack up, and then we'll glue it back down. It'll actually stay in position a lot better than if you just apply it wet. I got my cradle here. We're going to use the cradle to hold things in place. Up, I can start the second fin. So it's kind of like a nice little assembly line system. Okay. Okay, we'll put this one in. Okay. Now, the first one has had time to tack up, so we can go ahead and apply it permanently. Lay it down. Press it nice and firm. And see, it holds itself in position. And you want to check from behind, make sure everything is perpendicular to the tube. Okay, just keep sighting it until it's where you want it. Okay, that looks good. Okay. Okay, we're going to get our third fin out. And we'll place it in position. And remove it. Okay, now while that's drying, we can go back to fin number 2 and permanently lay it in position. Okay, same thing, sight it from behind, make sure it's perpendicular to the tube, which it is. Okay, now fin number 3, we're just gonna have to be patient on this one. You can try to blow on it, make a little airflow will help it dry quicker. And if you see any gaps or anything between the tube and the fin, which in this case I don't, but in times past, you know, I've noticed it. That's okay, because they're going to be filled in with the fillets anyway. So don't freak out if you don't have perfect adhesion on the entire root. Okay, so this is probably dry enough now. We're going to lay it in position and press it firmly. All right, and we'll check from behind. Little tweaking there. Okay, that looks good. That's perpendicular. So all 3 fins look good. I'm actually now going to use my cradle to move one of the tops. And I'm actually going to stand the rocket up vertically. That way they won't droop in any one direction. So the fins will dry as they are. So nothing we can do for a while. We're just going to have to let that dry, and then we'll come back and do some fillets. Okay, the fins are all glued on and dried. It's been a day. They came out wonderful. I did run a strip of tape around the bottom and the top of the fins so we can lay down some fillets, and that'll help keep the glue from spreading onto the tube in places we don't want it. First off, you want to get some wood glue, and you also want to grab, which I didn't, I'm reaching for it now, some paper towels, because we're going to make a mess with the glue and our fingers. So have your paper towels ready to go. Now this is actually going to be a 2-step process. I'm going to run the fillet with the wood glue and then come back in and lay down some fillets, which is more cosmetic, using some Bondo. And I'll show you that technique here after a bit. But first, let's lay down our fillets. So I'm just going to run a bead of glue down the seam. We're going to do it on each side. And just take your finger and wipe it off. Just like that. And we'll do the next 2. I'm using my pinky. You can kind of base the size of the fillet to determine what finger you need to use. Being a small rocket with small fillets, the pinky is just about perfect. And final two. Okay, now the next step, I'm going to show you how to do it, but it's not required. This is something I like to do, but for flight purposes, you don't need to go this extra step. This is primarily for aesthetics, and if you were going for that true showroom look, which I'm really trying to achieve on this build, then you can go ahead and do this. But for all matters, purposes, one fillet we just laid down was good enough. If you want to add a second fillet, that's fine with wood glue. You can even add epoxy if you want to go that route. The thing I like about Bondo is the fact that it sands super easy. You're not gaining a lot of strength out of it. Like I said, it's mainly for aesthetics. So if you're looking for a good strong bond, go with epoxy. I highly recommend that. But I truly do want a good sandable showroom finish on this model. So we're just going to mix up some Bondo. If you've never seen it mixed up before, it's very simple. It's just like epoxy, except the hardener is minimal. That's a pretty good dollop of the filler. That's all you need for hardener right there. Just a little bit, and it kind of turns a light blue. Not even that really. It's very faint. But we'll just get a little bit mixed into the gray filler. The more filler you put in, the more hardener you put in, the quicker it dries. So just keep that in mind. And it does dry pretty quick. This is probably equivalent to maybe 5-minute epoxy. So we do have to act kind of quick on this. Okay, so it's pretty well mixed there. Actually, I am going to add just a little bit more. It came out a little bit watery. I want a little bit. There we go. That's still pretty watery. But at least we'll get enough mixed in there. We'll have good bonding. Okay, so what I like to do is with my Bondo, just lay down a very light little film and take a second popsicle stick. You'll save yourself a lot of headaches this way, and draw your fillet out with the clean stick. Just like that. I'm going to do a little build up around the leading edge. Okay. We'll do the other side, and then we're going to come back and clean up that excess with a Q-tip and water. That's all you need to do. There's a little Q-tip with a little bit of water. Okay. And just wipe that excess off. And the minute you start to feel your Bondo hardening, stop, because you won't get the next batch to flow. So just stop and then make up a new batch. Okay. Let's see how this feels. Okay, we're good for another pass on another set of fins here. Okay, and again, the nice thing about Bondo is it sands really, really nicely. I'm going to fill in the leading edge there so I can kind of make a little contoured front end. You can always add to it, and then sand some off. So, okay, how we doing on consistency here? Well, still feels manageable. So we'll do another pass. Let me get a clean popsicle stick. I'm gonna make my pass both directions. Okay. Okay, let's see how it feels. Yeah, we got enough here, I think. Yeah, when you first lay down, it looks a little rough, but dragging it cleans things up. Paper towels and Q-tips are a modeler's best friend on the bench. I really could not do, well, really any of my projects without these two things primarily. Okay, let's get that last strip down. We'll build up the front end a little bit, so we've got something to sand and work with. Okay. Now before all that dries, let's go ahead and get our tape off. It's a lot easier to remove it now. Okay, and then get one last Q-tip, kind of work out the front end, just kind of rolling it as you go. Okay, so now we're going to let that completely dry, and then you can go back and sand that down with, start with maybe, 300, 400, and work it down to 1,000 if you want, and that'll get it smooth as the surface below it. And then we'll be ready to do our launch slug. So we'll let that sit for a while and come back to it. Okay, I've given the fillets overnight to dry, and I took them out this morning for a rough sanding. But I think we got a good job started there, getting them going. And once we get the primer on, then we'll really know what we're looking at. But I think it's good enough now where we can go ahead and apply our launch lug to this line right here, and there's our 2-inch mark that we made. So we'll just simply glue it on, and then we'll end up running fillets in the same manner. But this is a pretty straightforward process. Just going to run a light bead of glue down the lug. Now remember, we laid the fins just to the right of the reference line. So when we apply our launch lug, I'm going to lay it on the line and then roll it to the right, so it'll be even with all the fins and everything. Okay, so let me just lay it right down there. Now we don't have to do that trick where you put it on, take it off, and let it tack up, because it's such a lightweight item. Okay, we're on the line now. Let me roll it to the right of the line, parallel to the tube. Check from behind, make sure it is right between the 2 fins, and parallel, like looking down a rifle scope. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, so now we're just going to let that sit and dry, and then we'll run some fillets later on. Okay, I just wanted to show you one quick thing before we head outside to do some painting. But I did get the launch lug on, and I put some Bondo in on the fillets. And a lot will be discovered once I get the rocket primed, for sure. But once we get it primed, then we can go back in with some putty and fill in any gaps or anything that we need to. But the rocket's ready for painting. I'm going to take it outside, so next time you see it, it will be done. I don't know if I'm going to show you after the primer or just wait till the completed rocket. But that's pretty much it for this. We still need to do the shock cord and the streamer, but we'll get to that after we're done painting. So, all right, I'm going to take it outside. We'll see you in a bit. Okay, like I mentioned in the last segment, next time you see the rocket, it'll be painted. And here you have it. So this was primered in Rust-Oleum gray, and then covered in Rust-Oleum white primer. And I always do 2 coats of primer in 2 different colors. That way I can sand through the top color, and when I start to see the undercoat primer, that's when I stop, because you definitely don't want to get down into the cardboard, especially when you're wet sanding. So I always do 2 layers of primer in 2 different colors. That way I can tell when I've reached that next level. So, and then on top of that, I painted it with Rust-Oleum Brilliant Gloss Blue. and now it's been dried for a few days, so it's good to go to put the decals on. So I'm going to put the launch lug on the left rear side, and I'm going to put the main Wizard name decal right on the top, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to angle a little bit toward me, that way I get a better view of it, but it is going to be right between these two fins. Key thing is wash your hands. You definitely don't want to do this with dirty, greasy, oily fingers. So what I like to do, I'm actually going to peel off part of it and leave, oh, maybe ½ inch, ¼ inch behind. That way I can manipulate the decal, get it where I want it, and then when it's straight I can press that back part down and it'll stay right where I put it. So let me go ahead and line this up as best I can overhead till it looks good. Okay, that looks good. So I'm going to press that little part down that I had peeled off earlier. Then I'm going to peel the sticker back, and we're just going to draw it down the tube. Just like that. And we get it perfectly straight. Nailed it. Okay, now we're going to come back and kind of work in the center and pull it out to the edge, pulling out any air bubbles or wrinkles. In this case we don't have any, fortunately. Nice. Okay, so that's how I apply my decals. You may have a different approach, and that's fine. Now we're going to put on this forward stripe, and I want to definitely put the seam on the back side. So I'm actually going to lay it down like this and see where a good place to begin would be. And that would be pretty much in line with this rear fin. Okay, so you go ahead and do the same technique. You know what I'm going to do? I just realized I'm going to trim that yellow to, I don't want any clear film overlapping. So I'm just going to take a quick trim of that top part off. That way we got a nice clean yellow stripe on the top. Perfect. Okay. Okay, peel back a little bit. We're going to trim off about ½ inch. Okay, let's figure out where we want to start. Okay, we want to start in line with this fin here. So let me wrap the tube. Okay. And press that down. And we'll peel it up, and we'll just run our thumb around, and if all's well, we should line right back up where we started. Okay, there we go. Got the top stripe on. Now we can make our way down to the fins. Got 2, 4, 6 of these guys. And this one, I'm not going to do that peel, half, and cut thing. I'm going to just go ahead and remove the whole portion of it. But I am going to use some tweezers to assist. And we want to tuck this up into the corner I didn't mean for it to fall off the tweezers. Okay, just like that. Now I want a little bit closer to the tube. There, right there. Okay, I'll do this one and I'll do the other 2 fins off camera. And then we will come back and finish off the nose cone and the shock cord mount. And we'll be pretty much done with it. But let me just go ahead and get this one on so I can show you what it's going to look like from one angle. There. Okay, there we go. Looking good. All right, I'll finish these other fins up and we'll come right back. Okay, we're going to wrap up the build here. We've got the shock cords, the streamer, the nose cone, which also has been painted and dried. And here is our body. You can see now all the decals are applied and looking good. So we're going to take our shock cord mount and our wood glue. And before I start making too big a mess, let me reach over and grab a paper towel, because you know it's going to get messy. Okay, so we're just going to lay down some wood glue on 1 and 2. Now let's go ahead and do 3 too, since we're going to lay the rubber onto it also. And we'll spread that out. Okay. Utilize the paper towel. Okay, we're going to take our shock cord, we're going to lay it across 2 and 3. And I like to do it at an angle, that way when we fold it up it won't fold over itself as much and be quite as thick as it normally would be. And we'll just put a little glue on the top of the cord. Okay, now we're going to fold 1 over 2. And then 2 over 3. Okay, and flatten it as good as you can. Squeegee out any excess glue, because the more glue that's in there, the longer it will take to dry. So we want to get it as flat and pressed out as possible. Just like that. And let's put a little bit of curvature into it. Okay, now we're going to place that now down into the tube. Super important now to have your fingers clean of any glue or debris. And we're going to put some glue on the bottom of the mount. Now when you run this or lay this down into the body tube, you want it to be deep enough so as to not hinder the shoulder of the nose cone from going down into the tube. So we want to put this a good 1.5 inches down the tube itself. Okay, so we'll just, in fact I usually use my pinky and I push it down as far as I can go with it, and then press it up against the side of the body. Okay, you can look down there and make sure you don't see it bulging out at all. It's nice and flat to the tube. Okay, now there's different ways of doing this. One way to do it, the way I like to do it, is maybe about halfway up I'm going to fold a double knot, which basically, well, I shouldn't say double knot, but I'm going to fold a loop into the tubing, the cord, I'm sorry, the rubber cord, just like that, and that is going to be what our streamer will then attach to. Okay, lay it through there, run around, we'll tie a knot. Sorry if I was off camera there, let me bring it back centered a little bit better. And let me run a double knot. Okay, now the other end, glue closed up, the other end we need to attach to our nose cone. However, you notice there's something missing. So let's get our insert, our little end plug here, and I'm going to take some plastic cement. And I'm going to run a light bead again. The more you put, the longer it's going to take to dry. So, and it doesn't take much. So we're just going to take our cap here, and we're going to push it in, and we're going to twist it. And what that's going to do is it's going to spread the glue for us. Okay, I'm going to let that sit for a second, and we'll come back. I'm going to tie it up to the cord, and we'll do a closeout. Okay, the end cap has had time to dry. It's now secured to the nose cone. So I'm going to take the end of our shock cord. I'm going to feed it through the loop there. I'm going to tie a knot, and I'll tie a reverse knot to help lock it into place. And on the inside here, I'm just going to put a little dab of glue just to help keep it from slipping on us. There, just like that. Now, also to prevent the shock cord from ever getting hung up in the shoulder, I want to snip this off at about a 1/4 inch mark. Right about there. We'll say 1/8 of an inch to a 1/4 inch. Just like that. Okay. Now we're gonna lay the rocket down. Let's go ahead and fold our streamer. The way I do it is I just fold it once over, fold it twice over, just keep doubling it over like that until you're about there. Then you can roll it up. Slide it in the tube and the remainder of the shock cord. And there you have it. Let me grab my cradle. And we're going to call this build done. That is the Estes Wizard. Flies on A's, B's, and C's. If you fly it on a C, please have a spotter with you so you can get another set of eyes, because this thing gets out of the sight quickly. So hope the build. If you have one, don't be intimidated by it. It's a lot of fun. It's an easy build. Just follow it step by step and you'll be good to go. So with that, everybody, I'll let you go. Thanks for watching. God bless, and we will see you in the next video.